Thousands of Amazon employees are reevaluating their futures with a new round of layoffs in the works. The company announced earlier this week it's cutting 14,000 jobs at the corporate level, with over 2,000 of those layoffs here in Washington. Tonight, we're getting some more insight into which employees are losing their jobs and the impact this will have in our region. I'm joined by Nick Passion with the Puget Sound Business Journal. Nick, thanks so much for speaking with us. You know, it's Halloween. It's the start of the holiday season. This has got to be a really scary time for a lot of these employees. What specifically have you learned about who got the axe in Seattle and our local surrounding areas?
You know, here in Seattle, we saw that out of the 14,000 employees that Amazon laid off, about 2,303 of them were based in Washington. About 1,800 of those were in Seattle, with about, I want to say, 200 or so based in Bellevue, where Amazon also has a good amount of offices and a good amount of employees. When it comes to the certain teams that we've seen laid off, we saw that a lot of people who are in human resources were impacted. We saw a good amount of people who are working in Amazon stores department, which is essentially the back end of their e-commerce website. And we also saw a good amount of people in devices getting laid off. So that includes teams that like the ones that build the Alexa, Ring doorbell, things like that.
I've heard some nightmare stories about employees being told not to come in the next day, some having their laptop shut down while they were on business trips. How were employees notified, and do most of them have a 90-day severance at least?
You know, it seems like most employees will have a 90-day severance at the very least. Some employees' severance will extend all the way out through May. It just kind of depends employee to employee on what they've been offered. You know, what we've heard from employees over here is that a lot of them were notified really early in the morning, oftentimes before they woke up, if they went to bed at all that night on Monday morning, or Monday night, I should say. And we saw that a lot of them were notified by email early in the morning. You know, news broke early the next day, and they were scared kind of all night going into then. You know, we saw employees who were there for as long as 16 years or as short as 4 months get laid off. And this has all been kind of a tricky time for them and a scary time for them as they kind of continue to work at Amazon. And we expect another big round in January as well.
Oh, wow. So what kind of impact do you think these job cuts will have on our local economy?
You know, I think it's tough to say so far. There's been some reporting that Amazon's payroll tax is expected to go down a little bit in the next year. You know, I think in the past few years, we've seen Amazon retract a lot from its office holdings in the Seattle area. And I think that's something that we can probably expect to continue to see to happen as employers continue to shrink their office footprints as they, you know, have fewer employees. I think another thing that we can expect, and we saw the president of the Downtown Seattle Association say this, is that, you know, small businesses will be impacted by this. When there's fewer employees coming into the office every day, that means fewer people going out to lunch, fewer people paying those sales taxes that go to the city and the state, and, you know, fewer people spending and being consumers in downtown, which can impact our small businesses around here.
Well, anytime Amazon does something like this, it makes big news. And Nick Passion with the Puget Sound Business Journal, we appreciate your expertise on this. Thank you for speaking with us.
Great. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
While Amazon is making big investments in AI infrastructure, Nick says the stated reasons for the layoffs are related to corporate culture. CEO Andy Jassy has been working to cut middle management and says he wants to operate Amazon like the biggest startup in the world.